how's it everybody? Welcome to Empire's Call. My name is Alistair, and in today's episode I will be discussing and reviewing the 2020 Formula 1 World Championship Italian Grand Prix that was held at the Monza racetrack in Monza, Italy just this past weekend. Now guys, yes, that was an absolutely fantastic race. That is what Formula 1 is about. That was absolutely brilliant. What an enjoyable race. Of course, with the red flag notwithstanding, it was absolutely fantastic for so many reasons. To start off from the very beginning, let's have a look at the qualifying. Carlos Sainz in third. Oh, what an absolutely brilliant result for him. But Carlos Sainz must be feeling absolutely suicidal right now. To think that he's going to be leaving McLaren, who are performing much better than expected this season, to be quite honest, despite the fact that they had some quite good results last season, to be going to now Ferrari, which are abysmal. Absolutely abysmal. I mean, the qualifying session, just forget about it. I'm not even going to mention it. They don't even warrant a mention in this video, to be quite honest. Although there will be one or two going forward because of the race, of how it unfolded. But just what a fantastic result. I mean, Lewis Hamilton, fastest lap ever recorded. It just goes to show the absolute class and talent of Lewis Hamilton and the unbelievably superior car that he's driving. I mean, is he one of the most talented drivers? It goes without saying. But is he as talented as the likes of Ayrton Senna? I don't think he is Ayrton Senna-esque talent, but he's definitely in the same conversation. But his car is just unbelievable. His team is unbelievable, and all credit must be given to a man who is just taking the Formula 1 by the scruff of the neck, making it its own, and just absolutely breaking records left, right, and centre, and is going to become more than a legend. He's going to become Michael Schumacher. He'll be probably even bigger than Michael Schumacher, which is a scary thought, thinking the unbelievable success that, of course, was Michael Schumacher during his reign, particularly at Ferrari. Looking at the race itself, oh, wow, what a start. I mean, Carlos Sainz in third. I mean, the race then got off. Of course, we had the Hamilton in pole position, deservedly so, go right to the very front. Well, he was at the front. I mean, just, build up a lead from the beginning. But we had Valtteri Bottas, who I believe must have had some sort of a tyre issue. I don't think it was mechanical, because it was a poor start from him. Carlos Sainz right up at the front, the Lando Norris. We had the likes of Perez, Ocon up there. Then we, of course, had Verstappen, who was, I believe, in fifth when he had qualified, mixing in with the likes of Daniel Ricciardo and Stroll. It was just brilliant. It was so nice to see the unusual suspects, if you will, the real middle order pack guys coming up to the front, getting their nose stuck in, really having a good race and showing what they are capable of being able to do. So it was just fantastic. The three main points I think that we need to have a look at in the race, of course, is not main point, but to start off with, of course, we had Vettel, who is, I don't know if it was somewhere in the brakes of the rear of the car, I don't know if it was a cable of some sort, but something just exploded, which is just Ferraris this season. He was unable to continue his race fairly early on into the race because of the mechanical issue that he suffered. Fortunately, he was able to not impede the race in any way, get into the pits shortly after, and the race was able to continue without any disruptions there, which was good. Credit that he was able to at least not impede on the race in any way, shape or form. But where it got really interesting is not long after that, Kevin Magnussen experienced a mechanical failure in his car too. And what had happened is, it was a bit fortuitous for him really to be in a position in which he was able to then bring his car off the track, credit to him for doing that, and bring it just before the straight that leads into the pits, coming from the second parabolica and then into the final straight at the start finish line. And what had happened is he then brought it off just before that section onto the grass. And what the FIA did, and I have to give them credit for this because I think it was a better option at the end of the day, and it made the race far more interesting. To cut a long story short, they decided not to bring out the crane and have it then drive all the way to the car, pick it up, and then move off. They said to the marshals, okay, we're going to close the pit lane. You're then going to take the car and you're going to push it off in the direction of the pit lane and then just duck into a little service road before the actual start where the pit garages were, which is, in all credit, a very good job, and they did it in a relatively short amount of time. But because they then decided to close off the pit lane, of course then no cars for any reason can then go into the pit lanes. Now, for reasons I cannot understand, both Antonio Giovinazzi and Lewis Hamilton did not see the very clear two electronic signs that had made it very obvious that the pit lane in fact was closed, because naturally if there's a car that has an accident or goes off the track, changing your tyres is then normally the most beneficial time to do so. I mean, this has been done for many a year. So they went in and both got the tyres changed. Of course, everyone else was very clearly told this cannot happen. Of course, there was a big row about it, and then Lewis Hamilton changed his tyres, and it was at the front of all the other drivers, as was the case that he was far enough ahead they could do all of that, and so on and so forth. This, of course, then caused a big row, and almost immediately Antonio Giovinazzi, who was the first to impede this rule, was given a 10-second stop-go penalty, which is more than fair enough for the rules that he broke, because of the fact that he transgressed quite heavily into the rule books of the FIA. Then Lewis Hamilton didn't, and there was a lot of umming and ahhing because of the position he's in and the drive he is, and the stewards were obviously wanting to do their due diligence. So, fair credit to them for that. Shortly after that, this whole Kevin Magnussen car had been removed, Charles Leclerc had quite simply a spectacular accident. And I don't mean so that, fortunately he wasn't injured, but it was just his car coming around, I think it was either the first or second parabolic turn. I don't know if it was a puncture, but he lost the underside of his car. He lost control of it and absolutely slammed into the tyre wall just off the track itself. Now, of course, whenever a driver gets away from any sort of crash, whether it's a very light one or a severe one, in which he had, he came away unscathed, is an absolute win. I mean, safety is of paramount importance when it comes to ensuring that the races can go out without fear of drivers not being able to put themselves and their cars to the very limits. The result of that, of course, was that then the race had to be red flagged because of the severity of the crash, and because the tyre walls that would protected Charles Leclerc from injury needed to be then packed away again, because they just flew everywhere from the sheer impact to which he hit the wall. Of course, red flag then means that all the drivers then have to go into the pit lane, go completely out of the cars while everything's fixed during the time until it is safe. They then get back on to the grid as if the race was starting very again from the beginning, but in the positions that were in when the race was called a red flag. And this is where it becomes even more interesting, because during the red flag period, Lewis Hamilton was then given a 10-second stop-go penalty, and credit to the FIA stewards for not crumbling under the pressure of duly giving him the penalty he deserved for the transgression that he had made preceding the red flag stop from the Charles Leclerc crash. So absolutely well done to them. I think it goes to show that no matter who you are, who you race for, where we are in the season, or what your performance is, if you break a rule, you must be punished accordingly. So he was given that. And that then changed the whole dynamic of the race, even more so, of course, when it had started before the crash from Charles Leclerc, which came then after Kevin Magnussen's car breaking down and the Hamilton and Giovinazzi then going ahead and breaking the rules. So, cut a long story short, Hamilton then had, within 2 laps of when the penalty was given, to then complete his penalty, which he did, which means you drive into the pits, you stop for 10 seconds. If you want to change tyres, then only can your team pit crew then change tyres, and then you're back on. So he lost well over 30 seconds. He then went in after the 2 laps, or within the 2 laps, and when he came out, he was 30 seconds behind the back of the pack. And of course, Pierre Gasly just unbelievably land up being in front with Carlos Sainz in second place, Lance Stroll in third, and then Lando Norris in fourth. And that was just absolutely an amazing last few laps, because it's a fairly short race, Monza, being so long and straight and quick as it is. It was fantastic how it ended, because of course you had then the AlphaTauri with Pierre Gasly trying to hold off the likes of Carlos Sainz in the quite obviously quicker McLaren, followed then shortly behind by the Racing Point of Lance Stroll. Then of course you had Lando Norris and the rest of the pack behind, and then you had Lewis Hamilton with an enormous gap to try and then make some points. So I honestly thought he wouldn't have been in the top 10, because the other cars have decent pace in them, and although he is as good as he is, the gap was too huge. Well, lo and behold, he just went ahead and proved the class that he is by landing up in 7th position by the end of the race. It was just incredible, the sheer amount of speed and time that he was able to make up, or gap and time, was just incredible. But the best part of the whole race had to be the fight between that of Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri in the first place and Carlos Sainz in the McLaren in second place. I mean, I really didn't know who I wanted to win. I'm not a fan of either. Of course, Carlos Sainz going to Ferrari, I would like to see him do well. It will only obviously do better for him going into next season. But I mean, just to see Pierre Gasly have to put his car to the absolute limit, drive the best he's ever driven, Carlos Sainz the same, trying to catch up. You know, you had Lance Stroll then pushing, keeping Lando Norris at bay while trying to keep up with Carlos Sainz. It was just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I was so happy to see that Pierre Gasly was able to win. Of course, I really would have been happy for either of the two drivers, but it was a richly deserved and rewarded victory for Pierre Gasly and for the AlphaTauri. I mean, they went absolutely berserk at the end of the race, and quite rightly so, because it was just a fantastic result for both him and for the team. Now, many people would argue, does this mean that Pierre Gasly deserves to go back to Red Bull? I don't think he does. Yes, it was a well-earned victory, and it was a very, very good race on his part, from being a 10th and 1 point in the race to finish first, but I still do believe Alex Albon deserves to be at Red Bull, and that he's a better choice as a second driver to support Max Verstappen. Yes, he had a race to forget from Alex Albon, but needless to say, I still think that he is the better suited driver for that position. Of course, Red Bull may feel very differently towards the end of the season. If not at the end of the season, they may chop and change the drivers like they did last year around about this time, when Pierre Gasly was taken away from Red Bull, moved to what was then Toro Rosso, is now AlphaTauri, and now Alex Albon was given the seat at Red Bull. But I mean, guys, needless to say, just go ahead and watch it if you can. It was a fantastic race, and I really do hope that FIA are able to bring this reverse grid option into maybe next season for a few races, and then become a more of a permanent fixture within the Formula One rules of seasons going ahead. I could go into length about some of the problems I foresee with it, my objections to it, or actually no objections for that matter, but why I'm for it, and how they could implement it as the season goes by. But I'm not going to do that. I might probably do it at the end of the season and explain a little bit more depth about what may happen, if of course nothing transpires between now and then. Otherwise, guys, thank you so much for taking time to watch this video. Please do remember to hit the like button if you've enjoyed the video you've seen today. Also remember to hit the subscribe button if you've enjoyed the video you've seen today, as well as the previous videos that I've posted, so that you'll be automatically reminded for all future videos that I'll be posting going forward for Formula One and for other sports that happen during the course of this year and in the years to follow. Otherwise, guys, have a good day. Cheers.